Right this very second, there's this incredible microscopic city bustling away inside of you. We're talking highways that stretch for thousands of miles, all working to keep you alive, and you don't even see it. So today, we're going to take a journey into that hidden world, your circulatory system.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about that? There's a delivery service inside you that's on the job 24/7, no breaks, no holidays. It's wild. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to follow one tiny traveler on its epic journey through this amazing network.
All right, let's get into it. The first stop on our tour is the river itself. I mean, this stuff flows through every single part of you, making everything else possible. It's your blood, of course, but what is it really? So, believe it or not, blood is actually considered a special kind of connective tissue. But yeah, it's not solid like a bone or something. It's mostly this liquid part called plasma. That's our river. And then you've got all the other stuff floating in it, the formed elements. Think of those as the boats, the cargo, the crew, everything that's actually doing the work.
And this is where our story really gets some characters, because that's what these formed elements are. They're our cellular crew. And trust me, each one has a super specific, absolutely vital job.
So if we were to take a sample of your blood and spin it down, what would we see? Well, a little over half of it, about 55%, is that liquid plasma. It's kind of yellowish, actually. The other 45%, well, that's where we find our crew, the real action heroes of this story.
And here's our cast of characters. To make this easy, let's think of them like this. You've got your red blood cells, or RBCs. They're the delivery trucks, working non-stop. Then you have the white blood cells, or WBCs. They're like the police force, always on patrol. And last but not least, the platelets. They're the emergency repair crew, ready to jump into action at a moment's notice.
Okay, so let's zoom in and pick our hero. We're going to follow this one red blood cell. Let's call her Aerie. Now, Aerie is not alone. In a tiny drop of blood the size of a pinhead, there are about 5 million of her coworkers. That's insane. Her whole life, her one big job, is to be an oxygen delivery truck. She does this using a special protein called hemoglobin. It's a tough gig, though. Her contract only lasts about 120 days. After that, it's off to retirement, which for a red blood cell means getting broken down and recycled in the spleen. A tough life, but a vital one.
All right, so while Aerie is busy with deliveries, what about security? That's where the white blood cells come in. Now, there are way fewer of them, but man, are they powerful. They're the body's defense team. And it's not just one type, it's a whole squad. You've got your neutrophils and monocytes. Think of them as the frontline officers, literally eating up any bad guys they find. Then you've got basophils and eosinophils handling things like inflammation and allergies. But the real special forces? That's the lymphocytes, your B and T cells. They're the elite squad that mounts these highly specific, targeted attacks.
So, what happens when things go wrong? You get a cut, right? A breach in the highway system. Who you gonna call? The repair crew, the platelets. And the crazy thing is, they're not even complete cells. They're just these little fragments broken off from bigger cells. But the second there's an injury, they get the signal, rush to the scene, and basically get super sticky to start plugging the hole. Their whole mission is to stop you from bleeding out.
Okay, so we've met the crew, but what keeps this whole river flowing? Every highway needs a central station, right? A powerhouse. For Embry and the whole cellular crew, that's the heart. And believe me, this is where her journey gets intense.
So let's pull up the map. The heart is this incredible 4-chambered pump. You've got 2 chambers on top, the atria, and 2 much more muscular chambers on the bottom, the ventricles. For a tiny red blood cell like Aerie, navigating through these chambers and their one-way doors, the valves, is a huge challenge.
But what makes it beat? It's not like there's an engine someone has to start. Nope. The heart powers itself. It has its own built-in pacemaker, a little patch of tissue called the sinoatrial node, or SAN for short. And get this, it's auto-excitable, which is a fancy way of saying it creates its own electricity. It fires off a little electrical pulse about 70 to 75 times a minute, and that single pulse is what kicks off every single heartbeat. It's amazing.
So Aerie's wild ride to the heart, the whole thing is called the cardiac cycle, and it happens in less than a second, like 0.8 seconds. Here's how it goes down. First, everything relaxes. I call this the big gulp. All the chambers just open up and fill with blood. Next, the atrial squeeze. The top chambers contract and push that blood down into the ventricles. Then comes the main event, the great push. The super strong ventricles contract and whoosh. They blast the blood out to the lungs and the rest of the body. Then a quick reset, and the whole wild ride starts again.
You know that classic lub-dub sound of a heartbeat? Well, that's not the muscle you're hearing. It's the valves. That first lub sound? That's the sound of the first set of valves snapping shut right when the great push begins. And the dub? That's the second set of valves closing right after, as everything resets. It's literally the sound of perfect, life-sustaining timing.
So Eric gets launched out of the heart like she's been shot out of a cannon. But our journey isn't just one big, simple circle. It's more like a figure eight. It's a grand tour with two completely separate destinations. This clever setup is called double circulation, and it's a huge reason why mammals like us are so efficient. Think about it. By having two loops, you can keep the oxygen-poor blood totally separate from the oxygen-rich blood. It's a brilliant design that makes sure your body gets a super concentrated dose of oxygen with every single pump of the heart. So let's look at Enri's itinerary. Her first trip is the pulmonary circuit. It's a quick one. She goes from the heart to the lungs and right back to the heart. Her mission? Drop off the waste product, carbon dioxide, and pick up a fresh tank of oxygen. Then, fully loaded with O2, she embarks on the systemic circuit. This is the long haul. This is the journey from the heart out to every single other part of your body, your brain, your toes, everywhere, to make that all-important oxygen delivery.
Okay, so we've got the delivery service down. But what happens when the system is under threat? It's not just about deliveries, it's also about defense and repair. And this is where things like cellular ID cards, emergency procedures, and some serious teamwork come into play.
Okay, so think of this like a security system. Every single red blood cell, including our hero Eri, has a kind of ID badge on its surface. These are called antigens, and your blood type, A, B, AB, or O, is all about which of these badges your cells are wearing. If you have the A badge, you're type A. If you have the B badge, you're type B. Have both, you're AB. And if you have no badges at all, you're type O. And this is super important, because since type O cells have no badges, they don't trigger an immune alarm in anyone. That's why we call them the universal donor.
But wait, there's another marker on that ID badge. It's called the RH factor. You're either positive or negative for it. And most of the time, it doesn't matter, but it can become a huge deal during pregnancy. So let's look at a very specific and serious story. Imagine you have a mother who is RH negative, and she's pregnant with a baby who is RH positive.
Now, during that first pregnancy, everything is usually totally fine. The mom's blood and the baby's blood don't really mix. But during the delivery, it's possible for a little bit of the baby's RH-positive blood to sneak into the mother's system. And her body's immune system, which is RH negative, sees that RH-positive factor and goes, "Whoa, what is this?" It flags it as a foreign invader and starts preparing its defenses.
And here's where the real danger lies. It's not for that first baby, but for the next one. If she gets pregnant again with another RH-positive baby, her body is now armed and ready. Her immune system has created these anti-RH antibodies, and they are small enough to cross the placenta and attack the new baby's red blood cells. It can cause a really dangerous condition called erythroblastosis fetalis. The good news is, today, this is totally preventable. An injection given to the mom right after she gives birth can stop her body from ever making those antibodies in the first place.
Okay, one last thing. Let's circle back to our emergency repair crew, the platelets. How do they actually fix that leak we talked about? It's like a perfectly choreographed emergency response. The second a blood vessel is damaged, platelets get the signal and swarm the area. Their arrival kicks off this incredible chain reaction, a cascade of signals between different clotting factors floating in the plasma. The grand finale of this cascade is that an inactive protein, fibrinogen, gets converted into its active form, fibrin. And fibrin is basically like a sticky, microscopic net that forms over the hole, trapping red blood cells and everything else to form a clot and seal the leak. Just brilliant.
So, Eri's incredible journey, from her birth in the bone marrow, through that wild ride in the heart, all over the body on her delivery routes, and eventually to a retirement in the spleen, that whole adventure takes about 120 days. And her story, well, it's just one of trillions of similar stories unfolding inside you, right now, this very second. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing things are happening in there that we don't even think about?